Growing up with the PlayStation 3, I did my best to avoid any games that seemed beneath me. That meant anything colourful, anything family friendly, anything Nintendo really. Obviously now I realise that I was an idiot, and I kinda still am, because I missed not only one of Nintendo's most adult, but easily their most mature series. Metroid completely flew over my radar, probably because Nintendo just don't bother to market it. Of course your 3DS Metroid game didn't sell well, you released it months after the Switch came out. This is so infuriating, because I played Metroid Prime for this channel, and it was so good. So playing Super Metroid, I have no doubts that I've got a fantastic game on my hands. Welcome to the show, where I look at games I never grew up with to determine if they still hold up today. Welcome to Nostalgia. Super Metroid sets the tone with an opening line that should appear unassuming, but is made uneasy by its robotic and soulless delivery.
The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
The previous two games are recapped by Samus Aran, a lone bounty hunter raised by the ancient race the Chozo. She has left a baby Metroid, the last of its kind, with scientists who promise to utilise the Metroid for good. But just as she's leaving, a distress signal goes off, taking her back to the station. Everything is quiet, too quiet. There are bodies around the chamber from the intro, but the baby Metroid is gone. In the next room, it's completely intact. But Ridley attacks, steals the Metroid, heads towards the planet from the first game, Zebes. The station is about to self-destruct, so a quick escape is needed for Samus to give chase, taking her down to the planet's surface, where it is barren and seemingly devoid of life. The execution of this intro is perfect, whereas the original Metroid throws you straight into the action. Super takes its time to build atmosphere, ratcheting up the tension, revealing more and more, whilst being simple enough to get to grips with the controls. This building up the fate of a Metroid is even more satisfying, reaching a crescendo with the bass blowing up. Ridley will wipe the floor with Samus, demonstrating not only how weak Samus is, making it even more satisfying when Ridley's defeated, but it also portrays without a word just how determined she is, but without hesitation, she will pursue Ridley. After that big bombastic escape sequence, most games would advocate for keeping the action going, but Super Metroid is confident, trusting that you'll stay invested. It brings the action right down. You'll hit various rooms that you can't get through, funneling you through areas that you might recognise. This isn't for nostalgic purposes, however. This Zebes is ruined, desolate. Even the music has gone from being upbeat to being subdued and eerie. You arrive where the first game began. You go left to get the morph ball, and a strange light starts shining on Samus, almost giving the impression that you're being watched. It's not long before you're ambushed by space pirates, numerous in number yet easy to dispatch. This encounter is designed to panic the player without overwhelming them. This is executed even better with the first mini-boss. You collect the power-up from the Chozo statue, as you've done earlier, but this one stands up, slowly walking towards Samus, towering over her in this tightly packed room. It's claustrophobic. The Chozo statue is menacing, but quite easy. Though through the power of great design, it feels like you've overcome a towering behemoth. You'll come across plenty more statues in the game, but at the back of your mind, every time you'll think, is this one going to come to life like the other ones? Keeping the player constantly on their toes. This game is never scary, but it relishes in a deep ambience and atmosphere. It's not one factor that pulls this off, sound, visuals, gameplay, but the culmination of all three. Take one of my favourite examples. At a point in the game where you think you've seen everything, you'll notice you can blow up this pipe, taking you into the deep underwater depths. There's water reflecting over Samus's armour, bubbles coming from her helmet, dark murky water, strange alien-like fish, and this track that is calm, ominous, and mysterious. Super Metroid is perfect at encapsulating the feeling of being alone, exploring these deep, dark, desolate places. Often when you hear music in a game, you'll think of set pieces or certain story moments. With Super Metroid, I think of the visuals and the sound effects. The music is so deeply baked into the game that it's hard to distinguish the sounds from the songs. The melodies are written as upbeat, but pitched in a way that they can be perceived as melancholic or foreboding. I'd never listen to these tracks in my spare time, but they perfectly set the mood for the game. You really feel the deep heat of Norfair or the cold dark caverns of Meridia. There is a unique track for each of the areas in the game, helping diversify them. This, along with a strong art style, helps keep them memorable. There is even a layer of fog or rain that's laid over the top to strengthen the atmosphere of the environments. The sprite art in this game is perfect, having bright colourful areas that somehow still feel natural and dark in tone. This is done by having a darker colour palette in the backgrounds that make the foreground pop. Samus's sprite art is probably the best I've ever seen, with so many frames of animation, and going from this to this is no doubt impressive. Not only do I love her design, but I love the design of all the different suit upgrades that you'll get over the course of the game. There are plenty of upgrades you'll obtain over the course of the game, all of them multifaceted. Yes, missiles can be used on enemies, but they can also open specific doors. Yes, a gravity suit will give you more defense, but it also helps you move more freely underwater. Super Metroid is great at making every find feel rewarding. In Symphony of the Night, for example, you come across a weapon that was weaker than the one that you were using. In Super Metroid, every upgrade is useful, even if it's just an energy tank so you can take more hits, or an upgrade to your missile capacity so you can fire off more missiles. This made me feel like I was always getting rewarded for going off the beaten path. Upgrades will often halt your progression through this huge map. This may seem daunting, but there's never a time where you feel like there are too many options. The roadblocks are in place to guide the player, and when a new item is found, you're often trapped until you find out how to use it. Modern games will often explain everything to you, but Super Metroid proves that with impeccable level design, a tutorial is not needed. It's not perfect, however. With main progression I could often find out where to go, but it is impossible to get all the optional upgrades unless you're willing to use a guide, or you're going to scan every wall, floor and ceiling you come across. How I'd fix this is by having connected rooms shown more clearly on the map, to hint at any rooms that might be hidden. I'd also have the game track how many upgrades are in each location. Knowing that I haven't got to go back to the wrecked ship because I've got everything would be a huge help. Exploration on the whole is fun though. I absolutely love the speed booster, being able to zip across the map and pull off some flashy moves. I'd say for the most part the game controls well. Samus's controls are ideal for exploration. Her upgrades are a bit of a different story though. The space jump has wonky timing, but sometimes it's perfect, and sometimes it just doesn't. The grapple beam is also really irritating, trying to grab things when you're being limited to 8 directions of movement. Even equipping the grapple beam can be a bit frustrating. It means having to cycle through missiles, super missiles, power bombs. I definitely would have preferred a quicker method of switching. Thankfully, the controls never bothered me during combat. Most of the enemies are basically background noise, being easy to dispatch, only really being used to either refill your energy or your missiles. But the standouts are obviously the bosses. None are alike, all impeccable in design, and all unique to take out, like Crocomire who you have to push into the lava, or Dragon who you can take out with the grapple beam. There is no health bar, but instead their sprite colours change, showing their energy slowly depleting, almost like they're degrading as you take them out. All of these bosses are incredible, apart from Kraid. Look at this little bitch, he's so easy. What's going on? Oh shit! Kraid's a big boy! I don't know how to segue into this, but I've got to talk about my favourite thing about this game. Now that probably didn't mean anything to you, but to me, that meant everything. I was using a secret technique not required to beat the game to completely pass an obstacle I wasn't supposed to pass yet. See, I was supposed to see this, realise I can't reach it, go down to the elevator, get the high jump boots, go back up, and then go into Kraid's lair. There are so many examples where I got stuff early just because the game allowed me to. I need the grapple beam? Well, that's a funny way of saying speed booster. I need the high jump boots? Well, joke's on you, I can wall jump. This game is so fun to deconstruct that there's literally a speedrunning category for beating the bosses in reverse order. There isn't any of me hugging into a wall until I clip through it, or any other exploit like that. These are hidden mechanics that you actually get taught to by creatures in the game. This is the biggest reason that I want to play this game over and over. I'm not a speedrunner, but if there was one game that I had to speedrun, it would be this one. It is so fun, and every playthrough feels different. At the beginning of the game, it was very story heavy, but throughout the rest of it, it's been extremely subtle and easy to miss. Until the very end. And you know what? I'm not going to say how it ends. This is a game I don't dare spoil, but it is the most cinematic, climactic ending I've ever seen on the Super Nintendo. Super Metroid is one of the best games I have ever played. Not because I grew up with it, or because at the time it was made really well, but because even now it is an incredible showcase of impeccable level design and atmosphere. It may have birthed the Metroidvania genre, but it remains one of the best.